So I might be a little biased since this is the first movie I saw in a movie theater since winter 2020 when I saw 1917 in a local independent arts theater that closed because of the pandemic. So just maybe a little biased to have had a good time. Hello, I'm Jenna, and today you're watching another WWM Productions video, and today I'm reviewing In the Heights, the 2021 movie adaptation that was released in theaters and in HBO Max. And I thought that In the Heights was just an absolutely fantastic and incredibly fun movie musical experience. And disclaimer, I have never seen nor heard the original soundtrack or just the original play version of In the Heights, and the only experience I had with it after the fact was that I listened to the soundtrack. So I'm not really considering that in this review. I'll get into that a little bit, but for the most part I'm really just looking at the movie. So if you're looking for a review that kind of goes into like similarities and differences and how like it truly adapts itself from the original stage production, this isn't that review. This is movie-centric. Hence, the channel brand. In the Heights is a movie musical set in Washington Heights, which is a Dominican neighborhood in New York City that follows the lives of different residents of that neighborhood. Usnavi is kind of the main protagonist of the movie. He is a bodega owner, and he is the character that we see most of the story through. This bodega owner is kind of at the cross-section of his dream of returning to the Dominican Republic and opening a bar there, and also the life that he has in the United States. Throughout the course of the story, we watch dreams collide with reality on the streets for all the different characters beyond just the two I mentioned, because this is a whole neighborhood and everyone has their own experiences, and everyone has a past that they've come from and a future that they're looking forward to. And all of the residents are hoping for something, but also facing discrimination or gentrification and the challenges stemming from immigration. I just loved so much about this movie. The story is moving and powerful. It can be funny one moment, and then the next it has you wanting to cry. It just has this wide range of emotions that was just so well written that I just thoroughly enjoyed the experience. I was never really bored with anything that was happening. This movie definitely had the ability to kind of just rip on your heartstrings a little bit, but at the same time there are some genuinely just funny moments where like you can't help but laugh because the writing can be so earnest and witty. Each character has their own moments and they work with others, so you fully believe the idea of community and home that this story tries to resonate so thoroughly. And you just get so intrigued by all of the different stories of these characters and their hopes and dreams and their pasts and how all this comes together to form the identity that they have during the movie. And the writing totally sells the message of community so well, and it ties all of the emotional beats together through this idea of community, and it brings all of these different like threads of the story that normally you would be like, why are you introducing so much? You can't put these all into one movie and make it cohesive and understandable and fit the runtime, but this movie does it so well because this is a neighborhood and this is all of the characters' homes, and we kind of have to see that as the audience, and the movie does such a great job of doing that. It's definitely one of the highlights of seeing this movie, and the writing totally sells you on this community, so I was just rooting for all of them to accomplish their dreams and just to see them happy and thriving in some capacity. And the idea of dreams versus reality and where life takes us was really poignant, and you see this kind of stressed again and again in the movie of everybody has their own dreams and they're all fighting to make them a reality, but sometimes they don't always turn out the way we expect them to, and it was really interesting to see how they played on all of these different ideas of dreams and, in a sense, the American dream as well. And it was just really fascinating to see all of the different iterations they can have of the same theme and how it can take people in different directions and what it does to a character's life. This is a musical, so we didn't talk about the music because, apparently I'm the soundtrack person on this channel. The songs were all mostly bangers in this movie. Just let's make that abundantly clear. The In the Heights soundtrack is very good. I really enjoyed it. There have been so many that I've gone back and listened to in the past few days after I've seen this movie. In the Heights is the opening number. It's 8 minutes, but it so thoroughly works as an introduction to the story's themes, all the different characters, everything that we're going to see. It's not an overture, or at least not in the traditional sense, because it doesn't necessarily show us all of the different musical motifs that we're going to see, but as a way of just drawing the audience in and giving them almost like a synopsis of everything they're going to see. It is so great. It's just so good. And Passencia Fe, that whole number in the movie just jaw dropped. It was done so beautifully, and the song itself, I love the lyrics. It's just probably my favorite of all of the songs on the soundtrack. It's just so good. Even without the number behind it and you're just listening to it, all of the emotions and it's just so good. I love all of the songs in the soundtrack. There were some that were a little lacking, like Breathe. It's Nina's initial song in the beginning of the movie. I wanted to like it and I didn't dislike it, but I don't know, I felt like it didn't have enough emotion behind it, so that was a little disappointing because it definitely felt like a song that I should have felt a little more. And while it was directed really well and I liked the different artistic choices they made on screen, just something about it musically felt a little flat. And there were definitely some moments where it didn't hit all of the right beats, or the way it was slotted into the movie felt a little off. But for the most part, those are really nitpicks. It didn't really bother me while I was watching. It's more so I've had the time to think about it afterwards or re-listen to it. And upon first viewing, I don't really know if anyone would really notice it unless you're really looking to critique a movie while you're watching it. And speaking of directing, the direction in this movie was on point, and just so many of the different artistic decisions were just so well done, and I just really enjoyed watching this movie from that perspective, because I'm always into what did the sets look like, what are the colors like, what are the costumes, and what is all of the more behind the scenes stuff that's happening, what is that like. And yes, this movie was so great. And even to go back to the idea of dream versus reality, this movie kind of blended the lines a little bit in a way that a stage production can't really, that just doesn't have the ability to, because it's restricted to the stage. This movie was able to just broaden everything that it could do via set, and just make it so that you have this whole open space to do all of these musical numbers and to bring them to the next level. And you also have lighting that you can play, you have more autonomy to play around with, and you have, of course, your camera angles too. So all of this made for almost okay, we have this really great play that people really liked with great music. We'll raise you one and we'll see what we can do now that we're making it a movie. And I really thought that was great. They did a fantastic job, and they mixed more unreal elements with reality, and that was really fun to see, because you'd be watching them go down the street. I'm thinking of 96,000. That was just, that whole scene in and of itself, just, oh my god, that was done so well. It was so fun to watch, and it had so many different moving pieces, and the choreography was great. But even while they're walking down the street and before they get into the pool, they're all talking, but they're also drawing things in the air that normally you just wouldn't really be able to see if it was a play. But because it's a movie and you can do CGI and visual effects like that, it just brought a whole nother level. Same with when Nina and Benny were singing together, and you were able to see all the different subway lines in the chain link fence. Again, it was just these small little things that brought so much more to this movie in a way that just it being a stage production can't, just because of the limitations that you might have. All of the different components came together to make just a spectacular movie, from just a I am looking directly at it perspective. Again, I can't fully speak for how it was adapted, so based on what I was looking at, there were a few hiccups, and I definitely agree, like, that some characters definitely got a little shafted because you have to fit the movie into a runtime that is probably shorter than it being a play, and you have to make all of these different characters fit together under essentially what is one roof, and both have their own satisfying arcs while also giving us like the main meatier portions of the story. And if there's one thing that like I knew immediately that I wish there was more of, was Abuela Claudia's character, and of course she is the one who sings Presencia y Fe, and so of course I want to see more of her. So I would have wanted to see more of her, and just the way they did her arc in the movie, from what I can tell, is different than the play, and I would have liked to see more of her character after she sings her big song, instead of her just not really being a part of the movie after she does that, to say that lightly. Spoilers, I suppose. Because from what I can tell, she is just such a focal point of this community, like Usnavi's Bodega is. So again, it would have been nice to actually like see her interacting more with the community, instead of people just telling us like, oh, Abuela Claudia, she's just such this great person, she's raised us, and she's done all these great things. Like, of course I believe that, and for what I did see of her, it was very easy to believe that, but at the same time I would have liked to see more of that, just falling into that show don't tell category of things. So, again, it didn't ruin the movie or anything, but there were just some things that like I wish they had tweaked a little bit. But again, this is definitely, like, in my opinion, it's like the gold standard of stage musical to movie musical adaptation, because it just did so much so well with the fact that it was changing mediums, and it definitely understood where it was coming from, but also where it could go. And at the end of the day, In the Heights is just full of charm and energy and emotion, and it's just a great summer movie of great tunes and style that you should just go see. Like, please go see In the Heights. All of the acting is so great too. Anthony Ramos does such a good job as the main role, but that is not to take away from any of the other actors and actresses, because everyone just did such a great job, and there's so much culture in this movie, and everything about it is really fantastic. There's not one element that like really drags this movie back. Some people might have different opinions based on what they know of the original stage musical, but as someone who, this is my first introduction to this story and this piece of work, I thought it was fantastic. So if you're like me in that regard, I think you'll really enjoy it. And if you're someone who's more on the fence on whether they would like this movie, or if they're not really that into musicals, I would totally recommend. I don't know for how long this is going to be up, but Warner Brothers, I believe, posted the first 8 minutes of this movie on their YouTube page for free, and it's the entirety of the number In the Heights, which is, again, one of my favorites. So I totally suggest that you check that out, because it's just, that number is so great in the music, and just, you can really get a feel for everything that the movie and the story is going for, and the music too. So again, just, if you're on the fence about that, maybe you go check that video out, and then you can decide if you should see this totally great movie, because I get it. Movies cost money to go see, so you want to make sure you'll have a good time, but I am telling you, you'll have a good time. Trust me. So with that, I'm going to conclude this review of In the Heights. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like, and even comment what did you think of this movie. If you've seen it, just any thoughts or video ideas, just let me know. I'd love to hear from you. And if you want to see more of WWM Productions content, subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. It's just another person in your inbox with new videos to consume. Right now, I just post videos every other Sunday, but my channel partner Ava, she posts videos, and she's also doing a daily vlogging exercise where she vlogs every day until she finishes her pilot script. You should totally check those out. She also makes such great and minorly chaotic content just like I do, but with better editing. And we also have a weekly podcast where we watch a new release movie typically off of Netflix. Gotta love this pandemic lifestyle. And then we talk about it for a little less than an hour. So that's also super great, and you can listen to that podcast not only on YouTube, but on essentially anywhere else you can get your podcasts, like Spotify, or essentially literally anywhere else that's in the description, so you should go check that out. I'll put it at the end of this video. So with that, thank you so much for watching. I will leave you to the rest of your day. Goodbye. If you enjoyed this video,